Hello, everyone. My name is Frank Lavinia, and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Frank Diggs Data. And a couple things. One, um, there's a new series on the Data Channel, and let me share it on my screen right here. Let's see. Meet the Metaverse. It's called Meet the Metaverse, and it talks about the enormous opportunity and kind of explains the role of the metaverse. Right now, I uploaded two new episodes today. What is the metaverse, and uh, what are the commercial applications of the metaverse? Because very often, I've been in VR off and on for a lot longer than I care to admit. Let me put it that way. And one of the things that's always come up is it always seemed like a solution looking for a problem. And I think this time around, I think we actually may have a good use case for it. And I am working on a newsletter. Not a newsletter, I'm sorry. Got the brain a bit confused. It is the last working day of 2021. Um, Time to start planning. Well, so way past time to start planning for me, 2022, and some of the content we have coming up. Had a great chat with my brother from another mother, Andy, yesterday. You can check me out on these following URLs. Oops, there we go. There's an updated one. I'm going to delete that old link right there. Can I drag it around? Cool. I can drag it around. That's pretty cool. All right. And ultimately, and I'm going to record something that kind of will augment this and kind of explain, well, why would a data professional care about this? So just wanted to give folks a shout out and just let them know that we are growing the repertoire of content on the data channel. And if you want to get in on the action, you can do so right now by going and using those coupon codes to get a significant discount. And if you're interested in getting your own coupon code that you can share with your audience, let me know. And we'll figure out. We're still working our way through what data we get from our platform and such, but we definitely want to grow the ecosystem. If you're interested in becoming a content creator, let me know in the comments below. Or if you want to be a guest on our podcasts, let me know. And today's topic is data engineer versus data scientist. Now, this isn't going to be a tirade about which one's better. This is going to be a discussion about. I'm going to start with what are the differences and what kind of got me thinking about this again. So this is something that when I started the podcast with Andy, I like the idea of having a kind of me as a data scientist and him as a data engineer, and we can kind of balance out both sides of that equation. Now, that equation is still there's still definitely two very discrete job titles and job descriptions, but I'm gonna go a little bit further on this one. I'm gonna go a little bit further and say that expectations of both fields. So the context for this, I'm sorry, um, 26 minutes ago. All right. So the context for this was a conversation I had last week, and it was roughly kind of on the it was for my day job, and we were in a meeting, and an actual physical in-person meeting. Can you imagine? Very 2019, and ultimately the question came up where customer slash partner had basically said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to we're going to have to hire more data scientists." So he basically said, "I'm going to have all the mathematicians people, all the math people, busy." And I am not up on my Cyrillic, but I'm not sure if that's a real comment or a spam comment. I didn't know there was an .ong domain extension. Um, yes, Yenko. I know I can read the last couple of characters. Anyway, so thank you for your comment. And if it's a spam comment, thank you for that too. I am now worthy at least of being spammed on YouTube, which is an improvement. Um, so ultimately, how this came about was a conversation. You talked about specking out this project that's coming up, and basically saying that he's going to require a lot of data scientists. And myself and my manager were kind of like, I don't know about that. I don't think you're going to need scientists per se. You will need them, that's for sure, but you're going to need a lot more data engineering. And that kind of got me thinking about the nature of the two jobs. Now, they're both kind of sides of the same coin. And the ironic thing here, and maybe the encouraging thing here, is that when I started data driven, I was the data scientist and Andy was the data engineer. Now, he's still a way better data engineer than I am. Uh, but when I took the job at the Microsoft Technology Center, one of the main kind of requirements for that job was it's really primarily going to be a data engineering type of role. Like you'll be an architect around data engineering. Data science and the heavy math stuff will definitely play into it, and that's definitely a good thing that I can do. So I really set myself, um, to pivot and become become much stronger data engineer. And I would say that prior to taking that job, I was probably um 80-20, 80% data scientist, 20% data engineer. Like I could do it if I had to. But it wasn't really that deep into it. By the time I left the MTC, I would say I was probably 55 45. Still kind of data scientist at the way I think about things, but definitely have kind of become for lack of a better term, a renaissance man of data engineering and data science. So it's definitely that you don't have to pick one and just stay there for the rest of your career. There's definitely an opportunity to switch the two. Is it easy? I mean, no. Is it hard? No. I was talking with another colleague actually last week about how she has a background in statistics and math, and she was, pondering, what it would take to get into data science. And I was like, honestly, you've climbed the hardest mountain. Like if you do stats, you understand stats, and turns out she actually likes statistics. It's like that's a big chunk of it right there. Just knowing that makes you I wouldn't say makes you a data scientist, but it definitely puts you on the path to becoming one. But the thing that I think is often goes unsaid is that AI projects almost require, I don't say almost require, they always require, they obviously require some kind of data scientist. But I would say that the work that's involved in order to feed or satiate the data scientist or the AI engineer, they need lots of data. And they need lots of data that's been prepped and cleaned and stored. Now, very often in a lot of organizations, it's the same person doing it in both capacities. Um, I hate using the term full stack data scientist or full stack AI engineer because I think that's just a disaster in the making. Um, but having the ability to kind of function in both worlds or hold a conversation with both types of crowds because they have different ways of thinking about things. And, with data engineering, it's largely about processes and pipelines. Obviously, SQL is probably the language of choice there. Although you can do a lot of this data wrangling, data manipulation in any language, Power, R, Python. I've even done data wrangling in Excel. Okay, just because I just couldn't. I was I was busy and I knew exactly what I needed to do in Excel, and I just figured I would just do it. So that's kind of the short of it. Is that's kind of the thinking. But there's this myth that's out there, and I was actually talking with my manager this morning about this. That data scientists are more important than data engineers. Now, are they more important? You need both, right? If you're looking at a baseball team, you need somebody to sit in all the parts of the field, right? You need a first baseman, you need a pitcher, you need a catcher, you need an outfielder, infielders. You need all those positions filled. Data science is a team sport. And or what if obviously baseball. Um, hey, cool. VOR.ONG. I think this is a spam. That's pretty cool. I'm more important. I'm important enough on YouTube to get spammed, which is a new thing. So spasiba to the Russian folks that are pelting this chat with spam. Um, couldn't have done it without you. So ultimately, this is really kind of a bit more long-winded and ramble than I need to do. So what I need to do is I need to write out kind of this my thoughts on this. But there's not one's not better than the other. But I would say the demand, or in terms of the workload in any given AI or data science project, is that for every unit of work a data scientist does, or a person does, and wearing the hat of a data scientist does, they are going to be there's probably 4 to 6 or more work units for the data engineer to do, right? Or the person that's wearing the data engineering hat to do. So if you're specking out a project, obviously it's going to vary in the real world, as consultants like to say. It depends, but I mean, ultimately, for this particular context, I would say that a lot of what we need to do is going to be data engineering, whether that's data acquisition, constructing the data pipelines, filtering the data, sorting the data, verifying the data, that sort of thing. Um, is going to be far more than what the mathematician types are going to do, right? That's the word he used. Which I would say probably the AI engineers or ML engineers, or data scientists, whatever term is in vogue these days, whatever title is more important. And I think that one of the interesting things, and I haven't checked, but apparently data engineering salaries are now higher than data scientist salaries. Now, I don't know if that's true. I haven't checked it, but just the fact that those two are, because I think the industry is finding this out themselves. They're finding out that, oh, we can hire a data scientist, and the data scientist, very smart individuals, I'm sure. But you put them in front of, SQL Server Management Studio or whatever the equivalent is on Oracle, they probably would give you a blank stare, right? Not all, but I would imagine that someone who's a very deep R programmer or statistician may not have been exposed to RDBMSs or Azure Data Factory or any of these types of solutions. So I suspect what's happening, if those salaries are really going up, is that they hire a data scientist and they're like, yes, we have all the data scientists we need. All right, now how do we get this data from here to there? And they get that deer in the headlights look. Maybe that's a little over dramatic. But I think ultimately that's the rub, isn't it? It takes a team. It's a data science is a team sport. And for me personally, I like speaking both languages. Um, I don't know, I like being able to kind of function in both worlds. Certainly, it's good career prospects. I don't think you have to, but it definitely helps you to have a good understanding of what the other side is doing. And for me, I just thought that was interesting. And we actually kind of had a debate with the guy. Like, we were talking about staffing up for this project. And he's like, we're going to need this many data scientists. And I'm like, well, how many data engineers you got? I was like, well, we don't need any. Well, he didn't say it. We don't need a lot. And I'm kind of like, I don't know about that. Um, but I do think that there's definitely whatever that factor is of workload, where the data scientist, I estimate somewhere between 4 to 6 and probably 10 on the outside. Let me know what you think. Who, if you're staffing up a project, uh, how many work units do you foresee? Now, I suppose if it's research, obviously you're going to need a lot more research types, but this is kind of an enterprise focused solution, and I would say that. Um, for our use case and for a lot of use cases I've seen, data engineering is the way to go. And I actually had my former manager at Microsoft, one of my former managers at Microsoft said that AI is really the tip of the spear, right? And if you think about a spear, there's all sorts of stuff goes into it, right? This the tail end of the spear is kind of the IT, and then the top of it is really kind of the the data engineering, the SQL, the data lakes, the storage, and the pipelines, and all that sort of ingestion mechanism. And then the tip of the spear is actually the AI. And I think that's a good analogy. I think that analogy holds. I think it, whatever that in my case, like I guess I'm trying to get down to a mathematical formula. That's the data scientist in me. But I mean, ultimately, if you and that's an interesting point now that I think about it. That Are data engineers more process oriented just by nature, just by the way they think? And data scientists are more mathematically oriented. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. That's actually just a thought I want to explore. Speaking of explore, I now have access to LinkedIn newsletter. I can start a new LinkedIn newsletter. I'm not sure if I can only start one or if I can start multiple. So I'm thinking about the branding of it now. If you have any questions or thoughts about what that should be, um, what the name of it should be, or what the topic should be, obviously I'm going to stick close to my wheelhouse of data, maybe a little bit of quantum, and perhaps with some metaverse. Who knows? Who knows? And I want to say thank you all for watching live. Thank you. I think that is Victoria is what that says, and that's a G. I think that's an L. Golanova, Golano, Golavanova. Yeah, my Cyrillic is very old. I haven't really done it, and I think trying to think of what that symbol is. So, um, hopefully that's an awesome site that you have. I don't know if I would click on it, but and if it's a legitimate comment, I'm sorry, I don't understand the context. VR.ong. Sorry. Um, Let me know in the comments below what you think, and any tips or ideas for my forthcoming newsletter on LinkedIn. I would appreciate it. So, with that, I will say have a great night and thank you for tuning in, either live or on